has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
So I got to tell you, I'm thrilled to have my dear friend Steve Albert on the show today. This is one of the greatest guys I have ever known in the business. It is that simple. Like, I worked with this guy, and I've been around him a lot over the years because of my affinity for boxing and being around all of the great fights over the years. Steve, of course, called all the greatest fights in history, basically. He's in the Boxing Hall of Fame, every single one of them. But then I got to work with him in television syndication in a show called Battle Dome in Los Angeles. And we worked together for a few years on that. And we were together way too much, like husband and wife, spending long hours together, 16, 18-hour days together. He is the funniest guy I have ever met in my life. Now, I love David Letterman, but I only went on his show twice. I was around Steve Albert enough to know that he is the funniest guy I have ever met. And he comes from that crazy Albert family of brothers, Marv, Al, and Steve. And I know his nephew. He's been on the show a million times. Steve Albert's got a new book out. It is fantastic, Steve. I have to tell you, I read it Evelyn Wood style. I read it really fast because you were coming on the show. I read it over the last few hours today before I came on the air. And I want to read it slowly on a couple of flights. It is truly an absolutely amazing kick-ass book and a journey through one of the greatest careers in sports broadcasting that I've ever seen in my life. Yours, your brother's. It's a crazy good book.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thanks very much, Scott. And Scott Ferrall, here you go.
There's you and I.
Let me get it up right.
There it is.
Before we get to the book, this is
you
the
and
two of
I,
us.
right?
Yes, and taking a few seconds out of those 18 hours we spent together, mostly at the buffet, waiting around to shoot. And there you are, a good-looking guy in the glasses. I was tagging along. I was riding your coattails. And then on top of that, here you go.
Wow,
an official Battle Dome hat. And it still has dried blood on it.
I believe that. You know, what's funny is that of all the things that it was a great show. It was in 300 markets. It did well. But of all the things that, like, at the end of the day, that didn't matter in the world of your career, I would say that would be it, because that was fun, a good time. It was funny. We were hilarious together, and it worked, and we got paid a lot of money. But your sportscasting career,
you were paid.
Wait a minute. So wait, I think like your NBA career alone, calling games for several different teams, from the Nets to the Suns to, and your brother, I think, did the Pacers forever. We know your other brother Marv did the Knicks forever, but you've done just about every team in the league. You did games. Yeah. You did Dr. J games.
Yeah, it goes pretty far back. I couldn't hold a job. That's the problem. I announced for 13 teams, Scott, in 11 different leagues, 7 different sports, 6 now defunct leagues. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. I had a lot of resiliency bouncing back. But after 45 years in this crazy business, people kept telling me, you got to write a book. So I did. And here it is. A funny thing happened on the way to the broadcast booth. What other way could I put it?
I think it's great. And you had, everything about it's funny. On the back of the book, whatever, all the your brothers slammed the book, and then you had a comment about the book when you were a newborn baby.
Yes.
But Bob Costas did the front of the book.
Forward.
I thought the forward. I thought he that was great. I mean, literally from the jump, this book grabs you by the onions and takes you on a ride in sports that is truly unequaled. Like, I mean, the stories about everything that I read in it are so amazing. From the people that you've worked with alone, just the names of the people that you have worked alongside in the booth calling games, that alone is staggering.
Well, when I called my brother Marv to tell him about the book, the first thing he said to me was, "How did you get this number?" And then when I asked him, when I told him that I was writing a book, he said, "Why don't you try reading one first?" So I decided to actually write a book. And, some of the stories are funny, some are wacky and bizarre. Hopefully, they'll be entertaining. Right out of the gate, I talk about getting locked in my bathroom. I was
Right.
doing morning. Yeah, I was doing morning drive time radio. I had to get up about 3:30. Didn't get much sleep, and I was trying to, open the door after I showered and brushed my teeth and everything and shaved. I was trying to open the door, Scott, and the doorknob was loose and jiggly. I couldn't open it up. Then I tried to unhinge the hinges, and they were like painted shut. So I had to take a large aerosol can of hairspray and punch a hole through the door, and then I got it just about big enough where I could slide through, but I got stuck in it, and all I have is a towel around me, so I had to slide back. And to make a long story short, I did get out of there, but you'll have to read the book to see how it went after that, and if I actually made it to the radio station on time. It was wild.
I actually remember, I've told you this story, but people, I've said this on this show before. I've told this story that your brother Marv one day, and I've told you this story if you remember. I was at a Laker game at the Forum, and I was sitting down courtside, and I was right next to him, like 10 feet away, and he said, "Ferrall, do not come near me."
Yeah.
I was like, I'm doing the show with Steve, and he's like, "I don't care. Do not come near me."
Yeah. That's typical Marv. It's I think we got those genes from my mother, believe it or not. She was a very quirky person and very, very funny in her own way. And she was not a sports fan, but she gave birth to 3 sportscasters. She used to say to us, "Can't I have at least one doctor out of this?" So.
But you grew up in Brooklyn, right? And your dad, Max, was your hero.
Yeah.
And I know one of the stories about, I read in there about how one of the interns along the way for either you or Marv or somebody was Howie Rose at one point in his very first job ever.
Well, what happened was Howie had a fan. He started a fan for my brother Marv, and he came and visit. I was a gopher, an intern at WHN Radio in New York, and he used to come up every once in a while to interview Marv. He rounded up about 50 people in the neighborhood in Queens and started this fan club. So he'd come up, and as an intern, one of my duties was to take him back to the newsroom so he can sit down with Marv. And he became the longtime voice of the New York Mets, one of the great announcers in baseball history.
When we come back, we'll talk to Steve Albert about, he's done a lot of that as well. He even worked with Ralph Kiner. It's
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I'm still optimistic eventually this will happen and they'll get it together. I mean, if Florida can get their act together, Sam, with the tribes, I believe that California can too.
It would bring a lot of money to the tribe, which is also something they really care about. It's an $8 billion market. Conservatively, it could be even more when it legalizes. The sports books would be sharing revenue with the tribes, essentially doing all their operations and forking over a percentage directly to the tribes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
King of the featherweight division for the BKFC, that is King Ty Stewart, who is joining us now, still the champion of the featherweights.
Though he did get dominated, he was still throwing big shots. He landed a lot bigger shots on Palomino than he did me, and I wasn't really impressed. Palomino's getting older. He is definitely a former GOAT. He has done amazing things in this sport, but it's just my time.
Only on SportsGrid.
I think this is like a sports fan's dream book. A funny thing happened on the way to the broadcast booth with Steve Albert. I just think that you will adore this book. It has got the greatest stories and the greatest names in the last 50 years in sports that you've ever heard in your life are all in this book. There are mentions of Ralph Kiner, stories of Kiner, and also Ralph Cramden, which is even bigger than Ralph Kiner. I mean, because your humor never ends in this book. It's so funny. And I mean, I told you the truth. I read it really fast, and then I want to read it really slow because that's how brilliant this book is and the stories. Your stories of Kiner first, and then I want to get into the boxing before we get out of here because I think your boxing play-by-play career is second to none.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate it. When I was announcing for the Mets, one of my partners was the legendary Ralph Kiner. And one time we were doing a game where he lit up a cigar and literally set his chair on fire. And he was in the middle of doing play-by-play. What happened was the ashes from his cigar were flicking into the waste paper basket, which had somehow found its way under his chair, and it had all of the rolled up out-of-town scores in it on the ticker tape. And all of a sudden, a ball of fire shot up under his rear end. And Bob Murphy had to pick up the play-by-play. He said, as Ralph was saying, that ball is caught by Dane Orge. And Jack Buck, not Joe, Jack Buck and Mike Shannon were announcing for the Cardinals in the booth next to us, and they were just doubled over in laughter. They were watching what was going on. They could see what was going on. One time, I'm doing a game with Ralph, and it was almost that time where he had to toss it to me for the play-by-play, and Neil Allen was warming up in the bullpen, and as this was happening, he said, and now for the play-by-play, here's Steve Allen. You know, that's just the way he was. That's just, you know, Steve Allen was a talented guy, but I don't think he did play-by-play. You know,
he did a different show.
Oh God, yeah, different. He was great. He was the original host of the Tonight Show on NBC. Right. Now the Mets were so bad when I was doing them. It was 1979, 80, 81 when I was doing the games. I mean, I once left 2 tickets in my car in the Shea Stadium parking lot. Yeah, somebody broke in and left 4 more. I mean, that's how bad. That's how bad they were.
Steve, talk about you're in all the boxing Hall of Fames, and I'm good friends with a lot of the guys that you've called fights with over the years. I remember when you did it with Chez and Ferdy and Sugar, but obviously my friend Al Bernstein, the nightclub singer himself, the lounge singer, he loved you and your jokes, and I thought you and Bernstein together were as good as it gets.
Well, thank you. You're very kind. Al was one of the best, if not the best, at dissecting a fighter's strengths and weaknesses and analyzing a fight. He can analyze a fight so fast. The nicest thing Al Bernstein ever did for me was get me Jerry Lewis's autograph, and I'll never forget that. I told him one time that I was a huge fan of Jerry Lewis as a performer. The first movie I ever saw in my life, I was about 9 years old. My mother took me down to the theater. It was called At War with the Army with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. And I passed this on to Al, and little did I know that a good friend of his was Jerry Lewis. And it turned out that Jerry was a big fan of ours. He used to watch the fights all the time. So I gave him a cassette of that movie. He took it and Jerry signed it. And Jerry did not sign many autographs. He was a tough guy, and he really didn't get into that kind of stuff. But I was honored that he signed mine.
So you did the Holyfield-Tyson ear bite fight, and you've never seen anything like that, obviously. And I'd love to get your memories of that, and also the back in the day when you were at Kent State, everything that happened there. In fact, you did hockey play-by-play at Kent State.
Yeah, I started the hockey team at Kent State, and I was there for a couple of years because they didn't build an arena until my junior year, and we wound up producing 5 play-by-play announcers into the NHL in just a matter of a few years. It was unbelievable.
And you got me into the NHL. You got me into the NHL.
That's right. You did
Thrashers.
The Flames.
The Thrashers, the Flames. What's the difference?
The Thrashers, the Flames, Atlanta. Yeah, after Battle Dome. Yeah,
that's
right. I remember that. But yeah, we put Mike Fornes, Rick Peckham. Let's see, Paul Staggerwald into the
That's
NHL.
My guy
myself,
Sykes, who did it with Mike Lang.
Yeah. That's right, with the Penguins. I wound up doing the Islanders for a few years. In fact, I was very fortunate. I was with them for a couple of years, the first of the 4 straight Stanley Cups. I was working with Eddie Westfall and Stan Fischler. And it was one of the great experiences of my life.
Yeah, Stan Fisher. Respectfully, I got 1 minute. Tell me your memories of the Holyfield ear bite.
Oh, yes. I was so nervous going into that fight because I really thought something bizarre was going to happen. Little did I know that it was going to be that bizarre, because in the past, Tyson had already done some things, questionable things, but I didn't think he was going to bite Holyfield's part of his ear off. And I was in shock when it happened. But, the thing that I remember most was just announce the fight or announce what was going on as a reporter would. I was thinking,
Steve,
what would Marv do?
Like it was yesterday. It was incredible. I have to run. I love you, and everyone can get the book starting tomorrow on Amazon.com. A funny thing happened on the way to the broadcast. Steve, I love you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
This is Greg. He bet a long snapper would go in the second round.
The long snapper from Florida is still waiting for his name to be called.
Now this is EJ. EJ tuned into SportsGrid's draft coverage. He checked the app, tracked the markets, followed the pros. He didn't guess. He knew. BEJ SportsGrid draft coverage starts Thursday at 7:30 p.m. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one? Because you're so far out of the West, do you get rid of Booker? Because D-Book will bring you far more in a return.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
One thing he used to tell me about, and he loves his family, obviously. This guy was a huge family man. His dad, his mom, his brothers, and his nephew's Kenny. And he used to tell me, Kenny's so busy doing NFL and NHL and NBA and whatever he does everything. And Steve used to tell me, he'd be working and he'd say hi to him for me if you see him. Because he never saw him or talked to him ever because he was so busy. And he would say I'd leave for the end of the day or the week. It'd be Friday. He'd say, if you see Kenny, tell him I said hi. He'd always say that to me. Honestly, Steve Albert's one of the funniest guys I ever met in my life. He's one of the nicest guys. Like, he was so nice that, like, it made me sick. Like, honestly, like, I'm not a real nice guy, like where you're just nice to everybody and all you do is be nice to people everywhere you go. It doesn't matter, the craft food services truck, he'd be nice to those people. He was nice to everybody, the makeup girl, and then I'd be like, oh, I've been here 18 hours, I want to kill somebody. And he was never that way. He was always funny and cracking jokes and nice. How about he saved pictures of us together? I don't have any of that stuff. I don't have any of that stuff. I did it for the money. I just want to be clear. I did it. I made a lot of money doing that show. That was a great show. And I will say this. That show with him is why Bateman dressed like me in dodgeball. We did Battle Dome first, and then he came on with the soccer jerseys and the sunglasses. He was dressed as me, the idiot. He's just a way better actor than me. All right, Carver High, enough of me already. Where are we here? I'm always taking things and leading them right off the rails into the river.
Last game for this evening in the NBA is going to be the Nuggets and the Clippers. Now, the scene shifts to Los Angeles at the Intuit Dome. Here's a comment from David Adelman that has some Clipper fans up in arms. Apparently, I guess they think that he's trying to say here that they pump a lot of noise into the place. Like if the fans don't get loud enough, Clipper fans are annoyed. Here's Adelman.
To me, one, they have the crowd at the end of towards our bench that it's like a high school crowd, which is actually really cool. And the other thing is they pump sound in that place. That place is so loud. It reminds me of Phoenix. We lost there a couple years ago in the second round. where you couldn't even hear each other talk to each other, at the timeouts and coaches. So that building is it's very loud, whether the crowd is cheering or not. So we have to be prepared for that. It is an amazing place, by the way. I'd love to go see a concert there. It's absolutely crazy. But no, we're excited to go down there and play.
I don't think that any of that has anything offensive in it at all. It is what it is. And the Clipper fans are going to be Clipper fans either way. Let's just remember the Clippers have never won anything ever. So let's not act like they got some kind of special forces going on in their brand new arena. I'll say this. It's the best arena in the league. And it is daunting, that end zone, whatever they call it, the wall, when guys are shooting free throws and everything else. My thing is, I just think the Clippers are really, for my money, one of the most exciting teams in these playoffs. I think they're fun to watch play. And, I don't know if they're going to finish Denver off, but they got the next two at home, and they need to take advantage of that because if they don't, they'll lose the series.
And the first of those two will be tonight. Clippers -5.5. 213.5 is the total. 5.5, little big number there for this game.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it with the Clippers. I think they're gonna win the game. 7 to 10 points, maybe more. They are really good already. They proved it. I think they blew game one. They blew game one. I think they should have won both games, and I think they'll go home and win. And I know they have to deal with this guy, Joker. I'm not stupid. And they got more than that. I think Gordon's a real problem, Murray. And I'll give Porter and Brown, they got a piece of this too. But the bottom line is, for my money, these Clippers, if they are stealing the ball and playing aggressive and getting stops, and they start running and get numbers, they got several guys that can finish and score in big numbers. So I like them a lot.
Jalen Brunson wins the Clutch Player of the Year award. The Knicks and the Sixers are going to play 2 preseason games in Abu Dhabi in October. And Adam Silver mentions possibly shortening the NBA season, says everything's on the table. I got a newsflash for Adam. His owners are never going to let him shorten the NBA season and give up home games. Never. Not going to happen.
I don't think it would lead to less injuries either. There's still injuries always when people play basketball.
This is Greg. He bet a long snapper would go in the second round.
The long snapper from Florida is still waiting for his called.
Now this is EJ. EJ tuned into SportsGrid's draft coverage. He checked the app, tracked the markets, followed the pros. He didn't guess. He knew. Be EJ. SportsGrid draft coverage starts Thursday at 7:30 p.m. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one? Because you're so far out of the West, do you get rid of Booker? Because D-Book will bring you far more in a return.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
And we are back, Ferrall, coast to coast here on a Thursday. Of course, we have all the golf going on as well. We got NFL draft tonight. We got playoff games. But there is some golf cooking, too. We've got the Zurich going on down in New Orleans. And Liv is playing this weekend in Mexico City. So let's get Brady Cannon involved, of course, as we always do when there is a Liv event, and see what we have cooking for this weekend. Brady, great to see you. As always, my man. Before we get there, the Zurich did start today. And this is, it's a weird event, Brady. Like I was talking with Cam and Keith about it yesterday. It's kind of like the break, right? Like everybody's, a lot of people take this week off in golf betting. A lot of the big players obviously take it off. But I kind of like the change of pace. I like something different being thrown in. Now, one part of that, Brady, is you get stuff like today. I mean, the law firm of Celinda and Velo going 14 under on their first round today. The Højgaard brothers at 13 under. You get some crazy scores with the best ball, but I like a little break with the Zurich.
Yeah, I'm all there with you. And on Friday, tomorrow, when they go the alternate shot, the best score of the day might be 2 under par or something like that. It's really a polar opposite what the best ball is versus the alternate shot. But I'm 100% with you. They started with this team format in 2017, and I think myself and probably you and, golf bettors, the players, we weren't so sure about it. Now, 8 years later or whatever it is, I think everybody really likes it. And you've got Rory and Shane Lowry showing up and Xander and Cantlay and Morikawa. More guys are involved in, and I think it's kind of relaxing for them too. Hey, let's team up. Let's go to New Orleans. Let's have some fun. And it's a cool event. The handicap's really tough, Mike. I dumbed down the risk, really, just peanuts as far as wagering risk this week, because it's one thing to try and handicap one guy and all the skill sets and the data that you have associated with one player. But now you turn that one player into a two-headed monster, and there's no real data that supports how that, dynamic is going to perform. So a lot of the handicap this week is guesswork. Do they have good chemistry? Did they go to college together? And then complementary skill sets. One guy's good off the tee. One guy's good with the short game. So it's a tough nut to crack.
It's not easy, that's for sure. Not at all. I know one thing. Me and you both have Novak and Griffin. So if they want to get themselves to the top of the board and they're 8 under through 10 already today, hopefully they can keep getting themselves closer to Celinda and Velo. All right, let's get to Liv now, Brady, of course, as they've had a few weeks off, and it's the first time we've seen them since the Masters. They go to Mexico City. Of course, they've played down in Mexico at Mayakoba the last couple of years, but now they go to Chapultepec, which is a place, Brady, that, as we know, PGA, a lot of these guys who PGA Tour guys on Liv, they know this place from years past in the WGC.
Right, exactly. The WGC Mexico was contested here for 4 years, 2017 through 2020. And I went with guys that have had success there in the past. And I think it also plays into our handicap this week, Mike, that the last course we played on the Liv circuit, Trump Doral, Liv Miami, there's a lot of correlation between Doral and Chapultepec, a lot of crossover success. You're at elevation here, hit the ball a long way. We know Doral is a monster as far as how long that course is. So I think you're going to see a lot of the same faces turn up here as they did a few weeks back, that week prior to the Masters when Leishman won at Doral.
Yeah, and that kind of is what it, every week. It's funny, Bray. Obviously with Liv, it's the same guys at every tournament. Right. And really, it's really, for the most part, the same board, especially at the top. Like, it doesn't even matter where we are. Rahm, Bryson, Neiman, Hatton are pretty much always going to be Cam Smith, if he could ever find
himself. They're the best players on the tour, right? Yeah.
Right. So there's no doubt about
chalk. Yep.
Always going to be the chalk when you get up. Now, there's a few guys who have been playing well and find themselves a little higher up on the board. Why don't we start, Brady? Let me know who you've got this week down in Mexico City for the Liv.
Well, you know what? I kept it simple, and I went with the same exact 3 guys that I took at Liv Miami, because I talked about how those courses are related. We see a lot of similar success, and I used results at Chapultepec when I was putting together my card for Doral. And I said, you know what? They had tremendous success at Doral, and I'm going to go with the same guys. I had 3 guys finish in the top 5 at Doral, and not one of them could get the victory. But I'm going to go with those same 3 guys. I started right at the top of the board with Bryson. He's one of the longest and most accurate hitters in the world, let alone on the LIV circuit. He also finished runner-up here at Chapultepec for the WGC Mexico in 2020. Got him at 6-1. And then I went with Sergio, who, despite the miscut at the Masters, is one of the hottest golfers in the world right now. A win in Hong Kong, has a couple of top 10s already this year on the LIV circuit. He's finished 6th and 7th and 12th at this golf course before at the WGC Mexico. Got him at 14-1. And then Carlos Ortiz. Again, you talk about the same guys popping up at the top of the leaderboard, the odds board, you name it, in LIV. Ortiz is another one of those guys. Has a runner-up finish, was 4th at Doral. He had a 16th place finish here back in 2020 at Chapultepec as a part of the WGC Mexico. So I'm going with those 3 horses again, and I think they're going to be right there in the mix. Hopefully one of them can kick the door down.
Yeah, and I love Sergio, and I'm probably going to add him to my card as well. Sergio, of course, has been good to us, Brady, here on our LIV segments, so I think it's right that we get him cooking. I'm actually going to go chalk as well at the top for one. I'm going to go with Rahm. Here's the thing with Rahm. We know he's always going to be in the top 5 or 10 on Sunday when they play the final round of this event. And I think, he hears it at every major now how he doesn't care anymore. He's not ready for the majors. I think you might get him this week in a little bit of a bad mood. Like, let me just go win another $4.5 million down in Mexico City and make everyone shut up for a bit.
And he showed up pretty nicely on the Sunday at the Masters too.
I played good both Saturday and Sunday. I thought he had himself going pretty well. So we'll go with Rahm. That's my chalky pick at 5-1. I'm going to go with Sebastian Munoz also at 25-1 down here.
Good pick.
And DJ, because he played well at Miami, and he's won here a bunch in the past. Now, the number bothers me, Brady, because as we've talked about, Dustin Johnson, before he played well at Miami, was going off at like 60-70-1 on LIV. He had fallen so far down the board. He's back up now in the mid-30s, but because of how well he's played here, Brady, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. You're right. He's got great history here, and he's shown some flashes. It wasn't just Miami, but I think it might have been Adelaide. It was another tournament right before Miami, a couple tournaments prior or whatever, when he was like the first-round leader. And, he's been showing some signs, and then he just can't put 3 days together, let alone 4 days. But he hasn't been able to put together 3 days. But no, I'm not going to argue that. Another guy that I looked at that has won here at Chapultepec before is Phil Mickelson. But he's another guy, 55, 54 years old, whatever he is now. Can he last for 3 days? Again, we've seen some flashes with him as well. We'll see. But I think those two, veterans, DJ and Mickelson, both might show up here.
Well, it's like the same thing with DJ. Like, I feel like Phil at one point had dropped down to like around 100-1 on these LIV boards. Like, he really cratered, and now he's back up in the 50s. He's 50-1 for this event. I'm sure that's partially the history. I just looked, plus 280 for a top 10, including ties, for Phil this week in Mexico. That's not a bad price for considering there's only
not at all
48 guys in the. Considering how many guys are
absolutely,
in it, and you're asking him to get T10. So I think I'm going to go there, Brady, and I'm going to throw
really
Phil
good
in.
bet.
Look at this, Brady's. He's on a bunch of our guys here for the Zurich. How about that? Moore and Clark.
Yeah.
That was a favorite of Cam as well last night. You've got Kim and Gim, Poston and Mitchell. We got a lot of reading the same mail, Brady. Good job. All right, let's go to the window.
Let's get one home, buddy.
LIV Mexico City. Let's get involved. Brady Cannon with us. I think they're playing again next week, too, Brady. I got to check the schedule, but I think LIV's got
a
couple events in a row coming here. Ferrall Coast to Coast. We'll be back right after this.
This is Greg. He bet a long snapper would go in the second round.
The long snapper from Florida is still waiting for his name to be called.
Now this is EJ. EJ tuned into SportsGrid's draft coverage. He checked the app, tracked the markets, followed the pros. He didn't guess. He knew. BEJ SportsGrid draft coverage starts Thursday at 7:30 p.m. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one? Because you're so far out of the West, do you get rid of Booker? Because D-Book will bring you far more in a return.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, Carver High styling with the Vegas golfer, the Las Vegas golfer himself, Brady Cannon, one of my all-time favorites on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Good to have you with us on a Thursday. We're live in New York City. Carver High and I getting ready to talk Stanley Cup because, as we all know, everybody loves hockey.
Everybody does love hockey. All right, let's get it going. How about last night? What a game, again, between Dallas and Colorado. Colorado got an early goal from Nichushkin, held all the way to the third period. About halfway through the third, Stars get a power play equalizer from Jamie Benn, and we go to overtime for the second game in a row in this series. And this one happened fairly quickly as well, about 5.5 minutes into the extra session. Tyler Seguin getting involved on ESPN.
Can't take the puck away, now does. Skates to stick away from Drouin. Played ahead to Marchment. Marchment drives to the net. He holds, finds a cutter, score! Marchment sets up Seguin.
I always knew Bob with shoes on would make it in the world. I always tell the story that he used to do my show, Ferrall on the Bench, when I was on Westwood One and CBS and nationally. He would fill in for me whenever I was on vacation. I love Bob with shoes on. I think he's great. I think he's the best play-by-play guy they have, bar none. And his intensity and excitement is what I live for as a fan. I want to hear guys like him call games. I think he sets the standard, the bar real high. And I also think this. I cannot believe it. I'm going to admit this. I think Dallas has Colorado by the onions. They keep winning overtime games. They keep finding a way. They're not even, they're not leading in any game at all. They're getting their ass beat up and down, and then they win all the games. They find a way to win. You know what's going to happen is they're not going to have this never have a lead stuff very long. I think at some point it's going to break through where they're just going to win the series.
It really does feel like that because these last two games, they had third period leads. They allowed Dallas to tie the game in the third period and then obviously go on to win in overtime. Right. You know, Dallas has been compromised with a couple of injuries, and yet here they are up 2-1 heading into a game 4 in Colorado.
Remember their odds dropped? Remember how bad their odds dropped? It went from number 1 in the West to number 7 in the West out of 8 teams. They literally disrespected them so much, the odds makers. Like Robertson's injury, you would have thought they lost Guy Lafleur. Okay, so they are winning without him.
And they are back up to second, by the way, on that board in the West. They're 4-1 now to win the Western Conference.
Oh, they sure are, because they look fantastic.
Yep, they went right back up like a rocket ship. How about the Kings? They've moved up that board, and there you go. Dallas now favored, minus 165. Thank you, Luke. To win the series over Colorado. I think I think this is going to go either way, but I'll tell you this. I think Colorado evens at 2-2 at home in Game 4. I think this will be a best of 3 going back to Dallas for a Game 5. If they don't, then it's really, yes, I agree. It'll be finished. Because then they'll have 2 games at home up 3-1. And they should be able to get home.
Right there, how quick he is. He's
this
guy, he's like, I'm surprised St. John's hasn't picked him up in an NIL deal and like added him to the roster. I'm a little, you know what I mean? I'm perplexed.
Meanwhile, elsewhere in the Western Conference late night, the Kings once again pouring the goals on against the Edmonton Oilers. They get themselves a 6-pack for the second game in a row, and this time there was no comeback from the Oilers. Anze Kopitar with another tons of power play goals for the Kings last night. This one on TBS.
Evan Fiala on the boards for Kopitar. Kempe, Fiala, waits, back across, they score! Kopitar, the third power play goal tonight for LA!
So I guess I'm supposed to admit, and I got no problem with it, that Elvis was right. Their size now is so much different than the last 3 years. They're so big across the board on all 4 lines of just giant forwards that absolutely crush it. I think they're physically dominating the Oilers and kicking their ass. And I mean, Edmonton at home in Ferrall, Alberta, they either win both games or they're effed. I mean, they have to win both, automatic, no questions asked. And I think the Kings are, pounding them into submission. I think they're just, off the puck, the body, in front of the net, behind the net, Mike, underneath the goal line. These are the kinds of things you see. Like, I remember the Penguins won all their Stanley Cups with talent and speed. And this team is winning with, I think, and the Kings won Stanley Cups, I think, with talent and speed. This team is winning with talent and physicality. They're so big. Those guys are all so big. Their forwards are all 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and they're all like 220 to 240. I mean, you get hit by these guys, it hurts.
It absolutely does. What a job by the Kings, up 2-0, going back to Edmonton. Of course, McDavid drives. Look at that, minus 465 for the Kings to win this series. Let me quickly throw you the last hockey highlight. Here's the Caps, of course, tied at 1 last night. Little Joe Beninati on Monumental Sports Network for Dylan Strome.
As Carlson moves through center for the rookie Ryan Leonard. This way to Beauvillier. Beautiful one-touch. Score! Dylan Strome!
He's like, with shoes in. Your boy, I don't know who's better, Joe B or Bobby with shoes on. My man.
Caps.
We got to get him on the show, by the way, Mafia. Mafia, get my tequila and pills and get Bob with shoes on the show. Christ's sake.
That'll give the Caps a 2-0 series lead as they head to Montreal for game number 3. 3 and 4 this weekend up there against the Habs.
Don't you think it'd be funny to get him on, to talk about how back in the old days, like 30 years ago, this guy was filling in for me, and now he's become a gigantic play-by-play star. I think it'd be funny to have him on and talk about the stories and tell him how good he is. I think he's fantastic. We got to get with you. Bobby, get with shoes on.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats, typically in your direction, if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one? Because you're so far out of the West, do you get rid of Booker? Because D-Book will bring you far more in a return.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
11 times now without a major, 14 times at the Masters. He finally has the green jacket. Rory McIlroy.
The best sporting event so far this year. It's better than the Super Bowl. It was better than the NCAA tournament. It had ups and downs. It had roller coaster rides. It had history, legacies. It had everything you could ever possibly want.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Talk about having a bad day, Carver High. I mean, that guy's sharp. I'm reading these stories about him with rough sex, and he's stepping aside. I guess he's not getting that $100 million deal with ESPN now with his problems. You talk about, can we put him in our having a bad day file?
He's having a bad week, that's for sure. I think his whole week's and you know what happens? You got a bad couple days, it turns into a bad week, it goes into like a bad month, turns into a bad year, and suddenly it just never have it. It just never goes well for you. All right, we've got 4 games tonight in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's go. First, Game 2 in Tampa. Really, let's call it like it is. A must-win for the Lightning after losing the first game at home. They're minus $1.25. Panthers plus 105, 5.5 the total.
I got to tell you, they beat their ass so bad, I think they're going to do it again. All I saw was total domination all over the ice by a Stanley Cup champion. That's like playing the 4 straight Islanders. The back-to-back Penguins in 91 and 92 and in 16 and 17. You're just losing to them. I took the Lightning in game 1. They got bent over. I mean, that was total domination. What's going to change? Nothing.
Yeah, they got completely smashed in that game. I don't feel good about it, but I'm going back to the Lightning tonight. I don't feel good about it, but I'm going to go back to the Lightning and see if they can get it done. Game 3 in Ottawa. The scene shifts as the Leafs have a 2-0 lead on the Senators. Ottawa favored tonight at home. How about that? I got it actually pumped up to minus $1.30 now for Ottawa. You get Toronto at plus 110 and a 5.5 total.
I got to tell you, I know everybody's betting on Ottawa tonight to win. I don't know why. I think the Leafs are flat out better. I'm going Leafs again. I don't care where they play these games.
I think the Leafs are going to win also. I'm on the Leafs. I don't think Ottawa's that good. I think the Leafs are going to get them tonight again. I think that broke them the other night. And this will finish them really. When they go up 3-0 tonight, it'll really be over in this series. I'm taking Toronto. Game 3 in St. Paul. at the XL between the Knights and the Wild. Of course, the Wild got themselves a split in Vegas. Now they come home, minus $1.65 for the Knights, plus 140 now for Minnesota, and a 5.5.
Yeah, I'm going over 5.5 for sure. And if that's the price on Vegas at minus $1.56, I'm all for it because I've seen as bad as $1.75. I think they'll get back on the horse tonight. If they lose this game, I'm going to keel over because then they're in trouble. Because you go down 2-1 to them and they got another game at home this weekend, and you could find yourself on the outside looking in and series over. You go back to Vegas with a ton of pressure on you for game 5. Then you got to go back to St. Paul. I think they have to win tonight. I really do. I think this is a huge game for Vegas. They have to win one of these games. Why not tonight? They either win tonight or they win this weekend or they're in trouble. So they are too good to lose to this team. I do not believe that the Wild are better than them. But I bet on the Wild in the last game with the goal and a half, and I hit the bet. I'm going to go Risky Jones and take the Vegas Knights tonight in St. Paul.
I'm taking the Vegas Knights tonight, and I'm laying the puck line on it, too. I think they get themselves right tonight. Laid a puck line with Vegas as well this evening in that. Matt's right. We're going big ball
At plus
here.
$1.52. Look at you.
Let's go. I'm laying the puck line. And finally, we have a game 3 as the scene shifts to St. Louis for the Jets and the Blues. Jets the road favorite. I got them at minus $1.20 now. Blues at even money and a 5.5.
I'm glad I bet them yesterday at $1.18 because I like the Blues tonight in St. Louis in a big way. And that line has gone from plus 118 all the way to what you just saw here on SportsGrid at minus $1.04. So, and you're telling me they're still dogs at home? This team, if you remember, was the best team in the NHL over the last 6 weeks. I think they're going to show up tonight in a big way and win that game.
I think the Blues are going to win tonight as well. I think it might be the only game they win in this series, but I think they're going to win tonight and get it back to 2-1.
They're going to win both games in St. Louis.
Fantasy baseball. Let's be honest, George. There's a lot of things antiquated about this game that we love. Man, like I would love to try some new little wrinkles here. And so for Sam's question here on the show, I think it's at least fair to ask the question with catchers in fantasy baseball. And sometimes we're playing in 2 catcher leagues. Why at this stage of the game? I have no idea. If you're still doing it, you're behind in the times. Buy or sell, catchers should get a fantasy point for throwing out runners trying to steal. So essentially awarding a defensive play to get an offensive point in fantasy. You gonna buy or sell this?
I mean, so this never even crossed my mind. I hate the catcher position because they get hurt so much. You play in a 2-catcher league, I don't know what to tell you. You know, it's like, what are we doing here? There are not 24, assuming a 12-team league, there are not 24 catchers to draft in baseball. There's just not. Although I'm the first person to tell you, Herrera's probably out there in a bunch of leagues there because we didn't see that power coming. Should he get a point? I think if you're going to do this, by the way, why a point? What are you throwing out? 1, 2 base runners a week? It's 2 points. Who cares? You know, shouldn't it be more? I mean, if we're going to do this, should we do it right? Shouldn't it be 5 points? You know, so I would probably go that direction. If you're going to do it right. Give it more points. And by the way, then let's go further. You make an error, you're losing points. No one gets an error anymore. All right, if you get an error, it means you really screwed up. Watching that Yankee-Pittsburgh game yesterday because I think it was who cares? Somebody hit the ball hard to Isaiah Khalifa at shortstop. He didn't have to move, but he dropped it. They called it a hit because he hit the ball hard with 3-hopper. Oh, hard hit, error. So let's do that too. So yeah, I'm kind of on board with this, but you need more than one. It can't just be a point that's meaningless. You need more than one.
Fantasy sports today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Only on SportsGrid.